She entered without a word, dropped her clothes, and climbed on top of me. Its massive solar panels reflected the distant sun in sharp angles, and the hum of machinery was the only sound in the corridors. For Dr. Eli Carter, the xenobiologist assigned to this remote station, the quiet had always been comforting. It allowed him to focus on his research, to study the strange and uncharted life forms that thrived on the newly discovered world below. Eli's quarters were small but tidy, a neat collection of data screens, scientific equipment, and personal mementos. A few photos of Earth's forests, oceans, and cityscapes sat on his desk, a reminder of home. Despite humanity's expansion into the stars, he often felt the pang of loneliness. The isolation was part of the job, but sometimes the stillness became heavy, almost pressing against his thoughts. He was sitting at his workstation, analyzing samples from the planet's surface when the first unusual event occurred. The room's lights flickered, a soft disturbance in the usual hum of electricity. Eli paused, glancing around, certain it was a minor glitch. But then, without warning, a figure appeared in the doorway. At first, he thought it was a hallucination. A tall figure, humanoid in shape but moving with a grace that seemed almost unnatural, stepped into the room. Her skin had a soft, iridescent glow, like moonlight reflecting on water, and her eyes were large and intelligent, catching the dim light of his workstation. Her movements were silent and yet purposeful. She looked directly at him, and Eli felt a shiver of both curiosity and caution. He opened his mouth to speak but found no words. The woman, or alien, did not speak either. Instead, she slowly stepped toward him, her gaze unwavering until she reached the bed in the corner of the room. Without hesitation, she climbed onto it, sitting upright with a poise that suggested both urgency and calm. Eli's mind raced. Was this an intrusion, a threat, or some kind of mistake? But there was no aggression in her movements, no weapons, no sign that she intended harm. Instead, she extended her hand, not toward him, but as if inviting him to pay attention. Then, without sound, a series of images appeared in his mind. At first, they were fragmented, flashes of strange landscapes, alien creatures, and swirling lights. Then they became clearer. Eli saw the planet below the station, a sprawling network of forests, rivers, and mountains, but within this beauty there was danger. A massive swarm, like a living storm, moved across the land. It was intelligent, calculating, and it consumed everything in its path. The images conveyed urgency, a silent warning that humanity's expansion was at risk. Eli staggered back in shock. He had studied alien life before, but never anything like this. The intelligence of the swarm was evident, its pattern deliberate, and its potential for destruction terrifying. He looked at the woman again, his fear mingled with awe. You can communicate this way?" he finally managed, his voice barely above a whisper. A gentle nod was her only answer. She did not speak with words, yet her thoughts were clear in his mind. Her name was Kailira, and she was an envoy from a coalition of species that spanned many star systems. Her mission was simple in concept but vital in importance: warn humanity about the swarm and seek assistance before it became unstoppable. Eli's scientific mind raced. This was the first direct contact with an alien envoy on a human-occupied station, and the implications were enormous. But beyond that, the situation was urgent. He had no time to marvel at the history of this moment. The images had shown him the potential disaster, and the weight of responsibility pressed on his shoulders. He took a deep breath and stepped closer, trying to focus on Kailira's presence. She tilted her head slightly, encouraging him, and the images continued to flow into his mind. He saw the station's position relative to the planet, the swarm's estimated trajectory, and the vulnerabilities in both. It was clear that immediate action was necessary. What can we do?" Eli asked aloud, though part of him already knew the answer. He would have to trust her and quickly, or risk everything below being destroyed. Kailira's reply came not in words, but in a vision. He saw the swarm moving in waves, its path disrupted only by obstacles and unpredictable terrain. Then he saw potential solutions: barriers, manipulations of the environment, and tactics that combined her technology with human improvisation. Eli realized the critical truth: the swarm could not be defeated by technology alone. Human creativity, quick thinking, and adaptability were essential. He nodded slowly, absorbing the information. "We'll do it together," he said. Kailira's eyes seemed to brighten, as if acknowledging both the statement and the unspoken truth behind it. The next hours passed in a blur. Eli and Kalira worked side by side, establishing communication protocols between human systems and her advanced alien devices. It was delicate work. One wrong step could trigger alarms across the station. But the two found a rhythm, bridging the gap between human ingenuity and alien precision. During this time, Eli began to notice other things about her. Kalira did not eat, sleep, or speak as humans did, but she observed everything with intense focus. She adapted to human behavior quickly, learning from every small gesture, every reaction. And in return, Eli learned to see beyond the alien exterior to the intelligence and emotion beneath. By the time the first alerts came in, signaling minor breaches in the station's outer defenses, the bond between human and alien had been established. Eli's colleagues rushed to their stations, responding to the alerts with trained efficiency, unaware of the full story unfolding in his quarters. The swarm was approaching faster than expected. Its movements were chaotic yet purposeful, a mixture of instinct and strategy. Eli realized that every second counted. The station's automated defenses were strong, but they alone could not stop the swarm. Improvisation was required, and humans excelled at that. Kalira's technology provided guidance, but it was Eli's quick thinking that turned theory into action. Using existing drones, rerouted power supplies, and carefully timed countermeasures, they managed to delay the swarm's advance. It was not a victory, but it was enough to buy crucial time. As the night stretched on, Eli felt a strange sense of hope. Humanity had faced countless challenges, from natural disasters to conflicts among themselves, and yet they had endured. Now, facing an alien intelligence far beyond their prior experience, it was that same ingenuity and adaptability that might save them once more. Kalira, for her part, seemed to understand this as well. Her silent presence was no longer a source of fear or confusion, but a reminder of what could be achieved when two very different beings worked toward a common goal. The mental link they shared was more than communication. It was collaboration, an unspoken partnership forged under the pressure of impending disaster. Finally, as the first signs of dawn appeared over the planet below, the immediate threat to the station subsided. The swarm had been temporarily delayed, scattered by the combined efforts of human improvisation and alien technology. Eli sat back on his chair, exhausted but determined. Kalira remained on the bed, watching him with those large, luminous eyes. Though she said nothing, Eli could feel her thoughts. The crisis was only beginning. The planet was still in danger, and the swarm was far from defeated. But for the first time, he felt that humans might have a chance, not because of strength, but because of ingenuity, courage, and the ability to think where no one else could. He looked at her and finally smiled, a small gesture of reassurance and understanding. "We'll need to move fast," he said, "but I think we can do this." Kalira inclined her head once more, and the images in his mind shifted from the past dangers to the possible future. One where humans, working alongside an alien ally, might just turn the tide against an impossible threat. And in that quiet moment, with the hum of the station around them and the planet below waiting, everything changed. Humanity was no longer just observers in the galaxy. With courage, creativity, and determination, they had become a force that even the stars had to notice. The night was ending, but the real challenge had only just begun. Eli knew that the next steps would test every skill, every instinct, and every ounce of human ingenuity. And yet, for the first time, he felt truly ready. Because in that moment, when she had come silently and climbed onto the bed, everything had indeed changed. The space station's corridors hummed with activity, a constant reminder that humanity was alive and thriving among the stars. Alerts continued to flash on screens, but for now the immediate threat had been delayed. Dr. Eli Carter, still shaken by the sudden arrival of Kalira, now faced a new challenge, convincing the station leadership to act, and quickly. Kalira remained in his quarters, sitting calmly on the bed, her luminous eyes watching every movement. Eli could still feel her thoughts in his mind, an almost constant flow of information and emotion. Though her presence was strange, it no longer frightened him. Instead, it felt like an extension of his own mind, a silent partner in the struggle to save the planet below. Eli moved to the communications console. He activated a video link to the station's command center. where the senior officers were already coordinating defense measures against the scattered remnants of the swarm. Captain Lin, a seasoned officer with sharp features and a no-nonsense attitude, appeared on the screen. "Dr. Carter," she said, her voice brisk, "the swarm seems to be retreating, but the alerts indicate regrouping activity. What exactly are we dealing with?" Eli hesitated for a moment, unsure how to explain what had happened. How could he describe Kaylira, her silent communication, and the visions he had received? Yet he knew that time was critical. The humans on the station and the colonies below depended on quick action. "Captain," he began, keeping his voice steady, "what we are facing is not just an ordinary alien species. It's a swarm, intelligent, adaptive, and fast, and it's heading toward the planet below. I've encountered an envoy, Kaylira, who has shown me a way to slow it down, maybe even stop it, but we'll need to combine human improvisation with her technology. This isn't just about strength, it's about thinking differently." Captain Lin's brow furrowed. "Are you saying you're working with an alien?" Eli nodded. "Yes, she's here to help, not harm, and if we act fast, we can save the planet." There was a long pause on the screen, then Lin exhaled sharply. "Very well, send her to the briefing room. We'll need all the information you have." Eli glanced at Kaylira. She gave a small nod, understanding the instruction without words. The two of them left his quarters and made their way to the station's main conference room, the metal floors echoing softly with each step. Eli felt the eyes of passing crew members on them, curious and uncertain, but no one spoke. Kaylira's presence commanded respect, even if the humans around her did not fully understand why. In the conference room, a dozen officers and scientists waited. Screens displayed maps of the planet, overlays of the swarm's movement, and live feeds from orbital satellites. Eli began to explain what he had seen, using his own voice while Kaylira projected mental images into his mind, which he then described aloud. "The swarm is unlike anything we've studied," Eli said. "It is coordinated, but not in a way we fully understand. It adapts quickly to obstacles, and it seems to anticipate conventional attacks. If we rely only on technology, we may slow it, but we won't stop it." Kaylira stepped forward, though the humans could not hear her words. Through Eli's mind, her message became clear. The swarm's weaknesses were subtle. Its intelligence was strong in numbers but limited in strategy. It could be manipulated, misdirected, and trapped, but it required creativity to exploit its patterns. Eli took a deep breath. "We will need to combine her technology with human improvisation. That's where we have an advantage. Humans are unpredictable in ways the swarm cannot anticipate." A murmur ran through the room. Some officers exchanged skeptical glances, but the urgency in Eli's voice made them listen. Captain Lin leaned forward. "Explain your plan, Doctor." Eli pointed to the orbital maps. "We start by fortifying the station's outer defenses, but more importantly, we create diversions that force the swarm into predictable patterns. Using drones, power surges, and environmental manipulation, we can guide it away from the planet and toward containment zones. But the success of this plan depends on split-second decisions, improvisation, and risk-taking, things humans do best." A young engineer named Sari raised her hand. "If we're improvising, won't we risk damaging the station?" Eli nodded. "Yes, there is risk. But if we do nothing, the planet will be lost. Sometimes, calculated risks are the only way forward." Kaylira projected another series of images in Eli's mind. This time, he saw the station's drones repurposed as decoys, channels in the atmosphere that could redirect the swarm's path, and areas where electromagnetic pulses could temporarily disable its mobility. The plan was complex but achievable if humans remained alert and adaptable. The team spent the next several hours coordinating strategies. Eli worked alongside engineers, technicians, and officers, translating Kaylira's alien insights into practical human action. The alien's technology was powerful but rigid. Its devices could follow precise instructions but could not adjust to unexpected obstacles. That was where human ingenuity became invaluable. Eli noticed patterns in Kaylira's behavior. She was meticulous, patient, and observant. Unlike humans, she did not rush, but she learned quickly, adjusting her suggestions based on his input. The synergy between human creativity and alien precision began to take shape, forming a plan that was both bold and flexible. When the preparations were complete, the first live test was initiated. Drones were sent to create decoy trails in the planet's atmosphere. Energy pulses were timed to disrupt the swarm's movement. The plan relied on human operators making split-second adjustments as the swarm reacted unpredictably. As the test began, tension filled the room. The swarm, projected on the main screen, approached the station with alarming speed. At first, it seemed to ignore the decoys, its movement chaotic and unpredictable. Eli's heart pounded as he gave rapid instructions, adjusting drone positions, redirecting energy surges, and improvising with equipment not originally designed for such a purpose. Kalira's eyes glowed softly, projecting mental cues that Eli interpreted and relayed. Together, they guided the swarm into a narrow path where its speed and coordination became its weakness. The plan worked. The swarm's movement slowed, its coordination faltering, giving the station's automated defenses enough time to neutralize a portion of the threat. The room erupted in cautious applause. Humans smiled, exchanged glances of relief, and nodded to Eli. Captain Lin approached him. "That was impressive, but this is only a temporary solution. The swarm will return stronger." Eli wiped sweat from his forehead. "I know, but this is proof that we can fight it if we continue to work together, humans and Kalira. We've bought time and we can build on this advantage." Kalira projected one final image. The planet below, the swarm regrouping, and a distant location deep within its territory. It was a silent message, almost a challenge. Eli understood immediately. The swarm had a central source, a hive or core, and defeating it would require a mission beyond the station to the planet itself. He turned to Captain Lin. "We need to consider a strike at the source. The station can only do so much. If we want to save the colonies, the planet itself must be addressed." Lin studied the map, her face serious. "That would be dangerous. We've never sent humans into that territory before." Eli nodded. "I understand. But humans are capable of adapting, improvising, and thinking in ways the swarm cannot predict. This is our chance to prove it." Kalira's gaze met his. Though she did not speak, Eli felt her silent agreement. The partnership was solidified. Together, they would face the swarm, using intelligence, courage, and adaptability, the hallmarks of humanity. As the crew returned to their stations and the initial threat subsided, Eli remained in the conference room, reflecting on the events of the past hours. The station had survived, but the real challenge was just beginning. The planet below remained at risk, and the swarm would not wait for humanity to prepare. Yet there was hope. Humans had faced countless challenges before, from natural disasters to interstellar exploration mishaps, and each time they had adapted, learned, and overcome. Now, with Kalira's guidance and the ingenuity of his fellow humans, Eli believed they could succeed again. He glanced at Kalira, who watched him with quiet intensity. She had come silently, unannounced, and climbed onto his bed in a moment that had changed everything. That moment had not only altered his life, but had also set humanity on a new path, one where they would stand not just as observers in the galaxy, but as active participants capable of shaping their destiny. Eli took a deep breath. The alliance was formed. The plan was set in motion, and for the first time he felt a sense of determination that surpassed fear. Humanity had been given an opportunity, and he was ready to seize it. Because in the coming hours, what they did next would determine the fate of not just the station, but the planet below, and perhaps the future of human civilization among the stars. And as the sun rose over the distant planet, casting its golden light across the space station's hull, Eli knew one thing with certainty. The quiet arrival of Kalira was only the beginning. Together they would face the swarm, and together they would show the galaxy what humans were truly capable of. The space station buzzed with focused activity. Every screen, every control panel, every operator was working toward the same goal, to defend the station and delay the alien swarm long enough for a larger strategy to be formed. Doctor. Eli Carter, flanked by Kalira, stood at the center of the operations hub, eyes scanning the displays that showed the swarm's movements in real time. The swarm had returned. Not as a scattered threat this time, but in waves, organized and purposeful, spreading across the lower atmosphere of the planet and toward the station's orbital defenses. Its pattern was chaotic yet precise, adapting to every previous obstacle humans had thrown in its path. Eli's heart beat faster. This was the moment their ingenuity would be tested. "Drones ready," shouted Sari, her fingers flying over the console. "Decoy sequence is online." "Power channels redirected," added an engineer. "Ready to pulse on your mark, Doctor." Eli took a deep breath and nodded to Kalira. She inclined her head, a silent signal that she was ready to assist. Without words, she projected images into Eli's mind. The swarm's weak points, the gaps in its movement, and the areas where human improvisation could be most effective. He translated those visions into commands for the team. "Divert drones to sectors 7 and 8, Eli instructed. "Set energy pulses to stagger the swarm's central formation. Adjust the decoy drones in a zigzag pattern, keep them unpredictable." The swarm approached at high speed, a dark mass that rippled like liquid across the planet's surface. On the main display, the humans could see its intelligence. It avoided traps, split into multiple units, and reacted to changes in the environment. But even as it adapted, it was not perfect. Its reliance on instinct and immediate response left it vulnerable to human creativity. The first wave collided with the decoy drones. Explosions of light and energy rippled across the projected view, forcing parts of the swarm to divert. Energy pulses from the station's systems disrupted its movement temporarily. Humans monitored each reaction closely, adjusting instructions on the fly. Eli noticed a subtle pattern. The swarm overcompensated when confronted with unexpected obstacles, moving faster in some areas and leaving weak points in others. He signaled Sari to adjust drone positioning, creating a corridor that would funnel part of the swarm into a containment field designed by Kalira's technology. It worked. One section of the swarm became trapped in an energy barrier, struggling to escape. Cheers erupted in the hub, but Eli quickly raised a hand. "This is only a temporary success," he warned. "The swarm is still learning. We cannot underestimate it. Keep adapting." Kalira projected another set of mental images, showing potential consequences if humans relied solely on technology. Eli interpreted them aloud. "Her tech is precise, but it cannot react to every surprise. We need to keep improvising, using drones, power surges, and even the station's environmental controls. Humans can adjust faster than machines can." He pointed to a nearby observation window, where the planet below glimmered with the first light of dawn. "See that valley?" he said. "We can use its natural terrain to our advantage. The swarm will try to move through it, but we can redirect it with energy pulses and targeted decoys. It will buy us time and reduce the pressure on the station." The humans moved quickly. Drones were repositioned, channels rerouted, and environmental controls activated to manipulate airflow and gravity fields. Each adjustment was small, but together they formed a coordinated web of defense that the swarm could not anticipate. As the second wave of the swarm approached, the humans were ready. The dark mass of creatures collided with the prepared obstacles, twisting and splitting in confusion. Eli's strategy was working, but the swarm adapted faster than before, forcing him to improvise in real time. "Energy pulses to sectors 9 and 10, he shouted. "Shift decoy drones again, create a new corridor." The humans followed his commands instantly, their minds working as fast as the swarm's movements. Kalira's technology amplified their efforts, projecting additional barriers and calculating the swarm's reactions. But it was the human adaptability that turned the tide. Drones were repurposed in ways Kalira's technology could not anticipate. Improvised traps used gravity wells and magnetic fields to slow the swarm's advance. Eli's eyes darted across the displays, noticing the subtle irregularities in the swarm's behavior. "It's reacting to hesitation," he realized aloud. "Every time we pause, it recalibrates. We need to keep moving, keep it off balance. Humans don't hesitate, we think, act, adjust. That's our advantage." The team responded immediately. Every operator was focused, every movement calculated but adaptable. Even Kalira adjusted her projections based on their actions, forming a feedback loop of alien precision and human creativity. Hours passed in a tense blur. The swarm continued to attack, but the humans and Kalira held their ground. They were exhausted, but they were winning in small, crucial ways. Sections of the swarm were diverted, trapped, or slowed, giving the station's automated defenses time to neutralize threats without risking human operators. At one point, a sudden breach in the station's outer perimeter sent alarms blaring. Eli rushed to the console. A section of the swarm had found a weak point, but instead of panicking, he saw opportunity. He directed a drone swarm to cut it off, while using the station's magnetic fields to redirect the remainder into a containment corridor. The maneuver worked perfectly. Kalira's eyes glowed softly, a sign of approval. Eli smiled faintly, realizing that this was exactly what she had intended when she first projected the mental images. Humans had executed the plan with improvisation that even her advanced calculations could not have predicted. "We're learning fast," Sari said, wiping sweat from her brow. "I never thought humans could outthink a swarm like this in real time." Eli nodded. "That's exactly it. We don't just follow rules, we adapt, we change. That's what makes humans capable of surviving situations even the most advanced species might fail at." The swarm's waves slowed, scattered, and faltered under the combined efforts of human ingenuity and alien technology. Though still dangerous, it was clear that they had bought precious time. The immediate threat to the station was contained, though Eli knew the larger battle was still ahead. He turned to Kalira, who remained calm, watching the swarms retreat. Through the mental link, he could feel her thoughts: admiration, respect, and cautious optimism. Humans were not just participants in this conflict, they were essential. Their ability to improvise, to think beyond rigid patterns, had made a real difference. Eli allowed himself a brief moment of relief. For the first time, he felt that humans could face this swarm and survive, not because of advanced technology or brute force, but because of their minds and their courage. But there was no time to celebrate. The swarm was not defeated, only delayed. Its intelligence was clear, and it would return, stronger and more organized. The humans had proven their capability, but the real challenge lay ahead, the source of the swarm hidden deep within the planet below. Eli knew what had to come next. The station could only do so much. To truly stop the swarm, humans would need to leave the safety of their orbital base and confront the threat directly. It was dangerous, perhaps even more dangerous than anything they had faced so far. But the same qualities that had saved them in the station would be their greatest tools on the planet. Kalira projected one last series of images: the hive deep within the planet, the swarm's central core, and the potential paths for an assault. Eli studied them carefully, already thinking of strategies. They would need to be bold, clever, and adaptable, but he was confident. Humans could do this. As the day passed and the planet below shimmered in the light of its sun, Eli gathered the team for a briefing. "We've held the station," he said. "That's an achievement in itself, but the swarm is not finished. To protect the colonies and ensure the planet's safety, we need to go to the source. We need to act where our creativity, adaptability, and courage will matter most. That's where humans shine." The team exchanged determined looks. They had seen the swarm's intelligence, its adaptability, and its danger. And yet they were ready to face it, knowing that human ingenuity could turn the tide. Kalira's presence gave them guidance, but the humans themselves were the key. Eli glanced at her, and through the mental link felt a shared understanding. Together they had accomplished the first victory. Now they would face the real test, one that would challenge every skill, every instinct, and every ounce of human courage. And for the first time, Eli felt something that he had not felt since arriving at the station: hope, real hope. Because humans were not just survivors, they were problem solvers, thinkers, and creators. They could face the swarm, adapt to its intelligence, and emerge victorious. The battle was far from over, but with ingenuity, courage, and an unlikely partnership with an alien ally, humanity had taken the first step toward proving that even in the vast, dangerous galaxy, they could stand tall. And that step, Eli knew, was only the beginning. The day began with a quiet determination on the space station. Dr. Eli Carter moved through the corridors, reviewing data and coordinating preparations. The swarm had been temporarily delayed, but the threat remained. Every operator, engineer, and officer knew that the real battle was yet to come. A mission to the planet itself, to strike at the heart of the swarm and prevent it from consuming everything in its path. Eli paused at the observation window, staring down at the planet below. Its surface was a mosaic of forests, rivers, mountains, and valleys. But through the haze of morning light, he could see the telltale signs of the swarm's destruction. Areas stripped bare, vegetation flattened, and rivers clouded with alien residue. The planet's beauty hid danger, but Eli also saw opportunity. Humans had always thrived in dangerous environments. Improvisation and courage were their strengths, and the swarm, for all its intelligence, had never faced humans directly on the battlefield. Kalira stood silently behind him, her luminous eyes reflecting the planet's light. Through the mental link, Eli could sense her calculations, the paths she had determined would be safest, and the risks she considered unavoidable. Her technology could guide them, but the humans themselves would have to adapt to every unexpected obstacle. That was where their advantage lay. Eli turned to the gathered team. Captain Lin, Sari, and a squad of skilled operators stood ready, their faces serious but resolute. "We've held the station," Eli began. "But holding a station is not enough. The swarm is reorganizing, and if we don't act, it will strike the colonies. Our mission is clear. We go to the source of the swarm, we confront it directly, and we neutralize it before it can adapt further." The team nodded. There was no fear in their eyes, only focus. Humans had faced dangers before, from extreme weather on distant planets to technical failures in deep space. This would be no different. Their minds, their ability to adapt and think creatively, would be their greatest weapons. Kalira projected images in Eli's mind, showing the terrain below. Jagged mountains, crystalline formations, rivers of strange liquids, and electromagnetic storms. The path to the swarm's central hive would be perilous. One wrong step could trap them or expose them to the swarm's defenses. But she also projected safe routes, ways to use the planet's terrain to their advantage, and strategies for improvisation. Eli relayed these images to the team. "We'll need to use everything at our disposal," he said. "Our tools, our drones, and our brains. The swarm is smart, but it is not human. It cannot think beyond its instincts. That's where we shine." The team spent hours preparing for the descent. Equipment was checked, supplies packed, and contingency plans mapped out. The station's shuttles were reinforced to withstand unexpected hazards, and drones were equipped with sensors and diversion devices. Even Kalira's technology was modified to allow human operators more flexibility. The goal was clear: give humans the tools to improvise. Finally, the team boarded the shuttle. Eli took a seat at the control console, Kalira beside him, her presence a calm anchor amidst the tension. As the shuttle detached from the station and began its descent, the planet's surface grew larger, more detailed, and more intimidating. The forested valleys and crystalline ridges stretched below them, but Eli's attention was fixed on the hive, a dark structure at the center of the swarm's activity. The shuttle shuddered as it passed through the planet's upper atmosphere, buffeted by unexpected wind currents. Eli adjusted the thrusters, guiding them toward a valley that Kalira had marked as the safest approach. The humans on board remained focused, making small adjustments in real time, improvising to counter the unpredictable conditions. "Gravity anomalies ahead," warned Sari. "Adjusting thrusters now," Eli nodded. "Good, keep it steady. Remember, we can't afford mistakes." The valley opened below them, revealing the path to the swarm's hive. The ground was littered with jagged rocks, strange formations, and glowing pools of liquid that shimmered like mercury. Kalira's technology projected safe paths through the terrain, but the shuttle had to weave carefully between obstacles. Human judgment was essential. One wrong calculation could destroy the craft or leave them exposed. As they landed, the team prepared for the ground mission. Drones were deployed to scout ahead, mapping terrain and detecting swarm movements. The humans disembarked cautiously, moving in formation. Eli led, Kalira beside him, while the rest of the team followed, each member carrying equipment for navigation, defense, and communication. The first signs of the swarm appeared quickly. Small units scuttled through the rocks and crystal formations, observing the humans' movements. They did not attack immediately, testing the newcomers, trying to gauge their behavior. Eli noticed a pattern. The swarm moved predictably when faced with hesitation, but faltered when humans acted decisively. "This is our advantage," Eli whispered to the team. "Keep moving, keep adjusting, and do not hesitate. We are unpredictable. That will confuse them." The humans adapted quickly. Using drones, they created false trails, lured the swarm into dead ends, and set improvised traps. Energy pulses disrupted the swarm's coordination, and human operators adjusted on the fly, using terrain features to their benefit. Kalira's guidance amplified their actions, but it was human creativity that turned potential hazards into opportunities. Hours passed as they navigated the treacherous terrain. The swarm became increasingly aggressive, sensing that their hive was under threat. Eli and the team adjusted strategies constantly, combining Kalira's technology with human improvisation. They used the terrain to channel the swarm into narrow corridors, where drones and energy barriers could slow it. At one point, a sudden surge of electromagnetic energy erupted from the ground, disrupting communications. The humans reacted instantly. Eli directed the team to adjust positioning, using handheld devices to stabilize their path. Improvisation became survival. Every small decision counted. Kalira's projections helped, but Eli realized the true key was human adaptability. Machines could calculate, predict, and respond, but only humans could improvise, change strategy instantly, and exploit unexpected opportunities. Each move they made strengthened that advantage. Finally, after hours of careful maneuvering, the team reached a ridge overlooking the swarm's central hive. It was massive, a dark, pulsating structure that radiated energy. The swarm swarmed around it, protecting the core with coordination and aggression. Eli studied it, feeling a mixture of awe and determination. "This is it," he said. "The source of the swarm, the station can't stop it, only we can." Kalira projected the internal structure, showing the hive's weaknesses, but Eli knew the final plan would rely on human creativity and courage. The swarm's intelligence could anticipate patterns, but it could not predict improvisation, and that would be their key. The humans set up their equipment, creating energy barriers, decoy signals, and navigation points. Drones scouted ahead, relaying information. Every detail mattered, but Eli focused on one truth: humans were adaptable. They could face unknown dangers, adjust instantly, and act in ways no machine or alien swarm could predict. As they prepared to move toward the hive, Eli looked at his team. "We've trained, we've planned, but now it's time to trust our instincts. Be creative, be brave. And remember, the swarm does not understand humans. That's our greatest weapon." The team nodded. Kalira's presence radiated silent support. Humans and alien working together, combining instinct, intelligence, and improvisation. The hive awaited, but Eli felt no fear, only determination. Because humans had faced impossible odds before. They had adapted to extreme environments, survived disasters, and solved problems that seemed unsolvable. Now, on this alien world, they would do it again. The first step toward the hive was taken. The swarm would not stop them because humans had something it could never predict: ingenuity, courage, and the ability to act beyond expectation. And as the ridge fell behind them and the hive loomed closer, Eli knew that the battle ahead would test everything they had learned. But he also knew that humans were ready. Ready to improvise, to adapt, and to prevail. Because in the galaxy, when intelligence met creativity and courage met opportunity, humans could face anything, even a swarm that threatened entire worlds. And that moment, standing at the edge of the hive, marked the beginning of the final, decisive chapter of their struggle. The air on the planet was thick with tension. Dr. Eli Carter and his team moved carefully across the rugged terrain, every step measured and deliberate. The central hive of the alien swarm loomed ahead, a massive structure pulsating with energy, surrounded by countless smaller creatures guarding its perimeter. It was unlike anything Eli had ever seen, both terrifying and fascinating. Kalira remained close, her luminous eyes scanning the hive and projecting mental images to Eli. Though her technology was advanced, even she could not predict every move the swarm might make. That responsibility rested on the humans. The fate of the planet, and perhaps the survival of colonies beyond it, now depended on human ingenuity. Eli raised his hand to halt the team. "We need to approach carefully. This hive is intelligent. It will react to our movements. But remember, humans are unpredictable. That's our advantage. We adapt, we improvise, and we act where no one expects. That's what will give us the upper hand." The team nodded. Each member was focused, their training and courage evident. Sari checked the drones one last time. Drones ready, diversions set. Energy pulses prepared. Eli took a deep breath. "Let's move." They advanced toward the hive, using the natural terrain as cover. Jagged rocks and crystalline formations provided protection and concealment, while their drones moved ahead to create false trails and mislead the swarm. The first wave of creatures noticed the humans and advanced, but Eli's team was ready. Energy pulses and decoys disrupted the swarm's coordination. The creatures faltered, reacting unpredictably to the humans' improvisation. Eli could see the advantage forming. What the swarm expected as a predictable approach was now a series of unexpected, clever maneuvers. "Focus on their weaknesses," Eli shouted. "Notice how they respond. Every hesitation is an opportunity. We control this battle with our mind, not just our tools." Kalira projected a detailed view of the hive's core. Its energy field was strong but not unbreakable. "That's our target," Eli said aloud. "We disable the core, the swarm loses coordination, and the planet has a chance." The team adjusted their route, avoiding natural hazards while using the environment to channel the swarm. The creatures adapted quickly, but the humans adapted faster. They shifted drones in real time, rerouted energy pulses, and moved with precision while improvising at every turn. Each step was a test of intelligence, coordination, and courage. Suddenly, a section of the swarm attacked from a hidden passage. Eli reacted immediately. "Redirect the drones, channel them into the crystal formation, use the gravity field." The humans moved as one, improvising with technology and terrain. The swarm followed the path laid out by human ingenuity, only to find themselves trapped or disrupted at every turn. Kalira projected energy barriers that amplified the humans' efforts, but it was the quick thinking, bravery, and adaptability of the team that held the line. Hours passed as they navigated the hive's outer defenses. The swarm intensified its attacks, but each wave was met with clever improvisation. The humans created distractions, manipulated the terrain, and acted unpredictably, forcing the swarm into mistakes. Their combination of courage and intelligence allowed them to advance steadily toward the core. Finally, they reached the hive's energy core. It pulsated with power, a glowing, almost living mass at the center of the structure. The swarm swarmed around it protectively, their movements coordinated, intelligent, and dangerous. But Eli had studied patterns, predicted reactions, and adapted strategies. The humans were ready. "Set up the final barriers," he ordered. "Deploy drones for maximum disruption." "Then we act." The team moved quickly, placing energy disruptors and decoy signals around the core. Eli examined the structure, noting its weaknesses. "It's reactive," he said. "If we act fast, we can destabilize it before the swarm adapts, but we have to be precise and creative." "That's our advantage." Kalira projected suggestions in his mind, indicating areas where human improvisation would be most effective. Eli relayed these instructions to the team. They followed flawlessly, each member using intuition, skill, and courage to execute a plan that combined alien precision with human unpredictability. The first energy pulse struck the core, sending ripples through the hive. The swarm reacted immediately, moving to defend it. Eli and the team improvised further, adjusting drones, moving barriers, and creating controlled disruptions that forced the swarm into a cycle of mistakes. "Keep it off balance," Eli shouted. "Every unexpected move counts. They can't predict humans." The humans worked like a single mind, reacting instantly to the swarm's behavior, turning its own intelligence against it. Kalira's technology amplified their efforts but did not dictate their actions. It was human ingenuity, quick thinking, and bravery that made the difference. Finally, the core destabilized. It pulsed violently, then began to collapse inward, the energy field destabilizing as the swarm lost coordination. The creatures faltered, scattered, and retreated. The hive shook, cracks forming across its pulsating surface. Eli and his team watched, holding their breath, as the final wave of the swarm attempted a desperate defense. The humans adapted instantly, redirecting drones, adjusting energy pulses, and improvising new strategies in real time. The hive could not recover. With a final, synchronized effort, the humans struck the core. A burst of light and energy spread across the hive, collapsing its structure and scattering the remaining swarm. Silence followed. The planet, for the first time in weeks, was free from immediate danger. Kalira's eyes glowed softly, her approval clear through the mental link. Eli exhaled, letting the tension drain from his body. The humans had done it, not through brute force, but through intelligence, adaptability, and courage. The team gathered around him, exhausted but triumphant. Captain Lin smiled. "You were right, Doctor. Humans can do the impossible." Sari nodded, still catching her breath. "We made it because we adapted. We didn't just follow instructions. We improvised, thought creatively, and stayed brave." Eli looked at the hive, now a collapsed mass of energy and broken structures. "This is humanity." he said quietly. Not just machines, not just technology, but our minds, our courage, and our ability to adapt. That's why we survived. That's why we will continue to thrive. Kalira projected images of the planet below, showing regions once threatened by the swarm now safe. Her approval was more than acknowledgement, it was respect. Humans had proven themselves capable, not just of surviving, but of overcoming an intelligent and dangerous threat through ingenuity and determination. As the team prepared to return to the shuttle, Eli took a moment to reflect. The battle had been won, but the lessons were clear. Technology alone could not save them. Strength alone was not enough. It was creativity, courage, and the human ability to adapt that made the difference. Kalira moved beside him, and through the mental link, Eli felt her thoughts. Humans were extraordinary, not because of tools, weapons, or numbers, but because of the mind. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, and now it had proof that humans could face the greatest challenges and prevail. The journey back to the station was calm in comparison. The hive lay destroyed, the swarm scattered, and the planet slowly returning to balance. Eli and his team were exhausted but exhilarated. They had faced an impossible threat and triumphed through their intelligence and adaptability. When the shuttle docked with the station, the crew was greeted with cheers and relief. Reports confirmed that the swarm had been neutralized and the colonies below were safe. Eli stepped out, Kalira at his side, and felt a profound sense of accomplishment. Humans had not only survived, they had excelled. In the following days, Eli reflected on the events. The mission had been dangerous, challenging, and unpredictable, but it had also demonstrated the essence of humanity, the ability to adapt, to think creatively, to act with courage in the face of danger. That was what made humans formidable, respected, and capable of standing among the stars. Kalira prepared to return to her people, her mission complete. She gave Eli a final look, one of mutual respect and understanding. Though she had come silently and unexpectedly, climbed onto his bed, and changed the course of events, her presence had shown the humans' true potential. Eli watched as she departed, knowing that humanity had proven something important, not just to an alien species, but to themselves. The galaxy was vast, full of unknown dangers, but humans had shown that when intelligence, creativity, and courage came together, no challenge was too great. The station returned to its usual rhythm, the hum of machinery a quiet reminder of life continuing. Eli looked out at the planet below, serene once more. Humans had taken the first step toward a larger destiny in the galaxy. They had faced the swarm, adapted, and triumphed. And in that moment, Eli knew one thing with certainty: humanity was capable of anything. With courage, ingenuity, and determination, no threat could stand in their way. For the first time, he smiled fully, a deep, confident smile. Humanity had been tested, and they had prevailed. Not by weapons alone, not by numbers alone, but by the very thing that made them unique, the human mind. The galaxy had taken notice, and humanity would never be underestimated again.